The Dubs head into the All-Star break teetering around 500 with a 28-27 record, but we have a double dose of good news as we head into this 8-day vacation, and we'll get into all of it on today's show. Before we do, though, guys, we're almost at our next milestone of 73,500 subscribers, and I need 154 diehard Golden State Warriors fans to go down below and hit that red sub button, because if you love the Dubs and you love free, informative, entertaining content every single day, you're going to love what we got going on here at the channel. The stance for the past about year and a half is that the front office and the ownership group in Golden State has wanted to remain under the luxury tax and paying at a minimum, granted where they were over the basically previous decade into the luxury tax heavily when Kevin Durant comes on the squad and paying big contracts to Steph, Clay, Draymond. Golden State was paying out a lot of money, and now there are reservations due to this mindset of Jonathan Kuminga potentially not being re-signed after the Jimmy Butler trade and extension. Remember, Jimmy's making $112 million over the next 2 seasons, so that kind of put Jonathan Kuminga's future up in jeopardy. But we got some great news from Warriors owner Joe Lacob, who says that they want to re-sign Kuminga even after the Jimmy Butler trade. Let's go right to this quote from my guy Joe Lacob, talking to Anthony Slater of The Athletic in a recent interview, talking about how Butler's trade might complicate Kuminga's future. And Lacob was just straight up like, why? Why would that happen? And Slater references the vast amounts of money that Jimmy Butler makes in comparison to what Andrew Wiggins was making, who he was traded for. And Lacob goes, yeah, so it seems like the idea that the ownership group has here is to bring back Kuminga. He said, absolutely, 100%. Are you kidding me? I love that guy. We love him. And that's not news to me. We all knew that Joe Lacob was very fond of Jonathan Kuminga over this past offseason, withholding him from certain trades. But talk about a trade that he did include him in actually this season. But I do love the from Lacob. Like that, this almost like casual brush off of, yeah, we're going to go into the luxury tax to re-sign Kuminga. We love this guy, and we're going to put our best foot forward to build a championship-level roster over these next 2.5 seasons with Jimmy Butler in town. And this is awesome because Kuminga is really blossoming as a player. Although we obviously have not seen him since January 4th when he sprained his ankle against the Memphis Grizzlies, and he's been out since then. It's a bad sprain. They're not rushing him back, and Kuminga obviously wants to get back out there on the court, but it's unfortunate that we're not all gelling together right now through these first 4 games of Jimmy Butler's Warriors tenure. But overall, I'm all in on re-signing Kuminga because he's been playing at an elite level. But think back to just a few weeks ago. Like Joe Lacob saying all this stuff now, it talks a big game now. But remember, Kuminga was almost traded. Like he was actually in a package to get Kevin Durant back to Golden State, and he was going to be sent to Phoenix. And Lacob was like, in that interview with Slater, he said, anybody can be traded. Well, almost anybody can be traded. I'm sure he was alluding to Steph and maybe Dre. I don't know if that ever materialized as to how real the Suns' interest in Draymond Green was. But Kuminga was almost traded here. So let's not act like this has always been a full-fledged pursuit of re-signing Jonathan Kuminga. Remember, they were very far away in their contract disputes over the offseason. So we can kind of pump the brakes on this full love for re-signing Kuminga, especially at a high price. And that's what he might command this offseason. A little over $38.5 million is what Jonathan Kuminga would be making in 2025, 2026 at the maximum number that he can get in free agency this offseason. And remember, he is a restricted free agent, so if another team thinks he's worth the max, Golden State might have to go and pay that price if he hits it in the open market. They can match any offer that he is given. And $38.5 million, right? Like, that's not necessarily the craziest number out there with the NBA contracts that are going today and the TV deals going up and the CBA increasing the salary cap. But these are 2 players that that number would be very, very close to as far as what their 2025-26 salaries are. Brandin Ingram, who just signed an extension with the Toronto Raptors, he's set to hit unrestricted free agency this summer and be open to signing with any team. But he's going to make $38.1 million next year. Is he necessarily the most winning player? That's yet to be decided. He's a little young, but the question you have to ask yourself is Jonathan Kuminga the same level of player as Brandin Ingram, who's a multi-time All-Star, I believe now? Is he the same level of player as Michael Porter Jr., who is an elite shot taker, an elite shot maker, and a champion at this point? I'm not so sure that we can say that, but what I can say is that Jonathan Kuminga has been ascending. We have seen the growth over the past couple of seasons from JK. This year, the numbers look a little bit similar to what he was putting up in 23-24, but I can tell you right now, the Jonathan Kuminga that we saw before he suffered this ankle sprain was a much different player. He was a more aggressive rebounder. He was going and making the extra plays. He was giving 110% effort every single night, and that kind of gave him an elevated role in Golden State's rotation. 21 point per game scorer over the previous 10 games before the injury, and the three-point efficiency was getting up there as well. We know Kuminga has not necessarily been a floor spacer his entire career. However, there is a player on this Warriors roster that I think that Jonathan Kuminga can learn a lot from and essentially mold his game around. And let's be honest, that is the new addition of our guy, JB, Jimmy Butler. Like, he is ready to take the mantle from him. They play a lot alike each other. And my overall wish with this grouping is that I hope Kuminga molds his game around Butler's. Think about how Jimmy Butler came into this league, right? Athlete, super raw guy, and didn't really have the offensive polish or overall IQ on both ends of the floor to be that all-star level player. But he put in the work, and luckily he was in a guy like Tom Thibodeau's system that, played a physical brand and really prided themselves on defense, and that elevated Jimmy's game overall. I think Jimmy can kind of pass that torch over to Kuminga, and Kuminga is honestly on board with that as well. Here's what he had to say about the acquisition of Butler. He said, "I like that guy. It's great for us. I think it's actually great for me being around him, trying to pick up some of the stuff he does. I feel like I see myself kind of like having a similar type of game." Hell yes. Kuminga needs to be a sponge. Like, pick up everything that Jimmy Butler has to say. Get a notebook, write it all down, because that's a player you want to model yourself around. A 6-time All-Star, somebody who has led his team to the NBA Finals twice as the best player on the roster. Yeah, that's probably a guy that you want to mold your game around. And Kuminga, if he earns the max through the rest of the season, which hopefully he returns back very soon after the All-Star break, could be 1, 2, 3 games thereafter, he will be worth it. And Golden State is thankfully going into the luxury tax and potentially the second apron to go out there and sign him. But should it be for the max? Should the Warriors sign Kuminga to a max, whether they offer it themselves or they have to go out there and match it from another organization in the National Basketball Association? Type Y for yes, type N for no. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So go down below and answer today's question while this YouTube ad break plays. My take on the whole situation is you got to let the market decide. I'm not going to go out there and offer Kuminga the max right away, right? Like, you got to negotiate a little bit. Surely Kuminga's camp will be asking for the max off the rip. But let's let the market decide that. Let's see if another team goes out there and offers him the full max deal. And I'll be honest with you, I think that they will. But you do not withhold Kuminga from any trade talks that you had this trade deadline season if you weren't willing to bring him back this offseason and pay the price that it took to do so. I don't want to throw out the max right at him like right away, but you do have to keep him if you weren't going to trade him away this offseason. You don't just not deal a promising 22-year-old if you don't plan on re-signing him. So my ideal contract for Jonathan is 5 years, $150 million on a $30 million average for 5 seasons. Is this realistic? I think it is a little bit, but time will only tell, and very heavily depending on how he comes back from this ankle sprain and performs the rest of the season. Coming up next, though, we have more good news. The second dose of our double dose of good news for your Dubs. We'll talk about that all and more in just one moment as they got to win before the All-Star break. But first, I got to give a major shout-out to today's sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports platform because it's daily fantasy made easy. And here's how you get started. All you guys got to do is download the app, use our promo code CLNS, and get $50 instantly when you place your first $5 entry. How do you place that entry? Easy. Pick a sport, any sport, basketball, college sports, esports, hockey, darts, baseball when it comes around. They have it all on Prize Picks, and just pick a lineup of 2 to 6 player stat projections and just pick more or less. And we all know we're at the All-Star break right now. Basketball games aren't going on at the professional level. However, we do have the 3-point contest and All-Star Saturday night coming up this weekend. And I decided to get a little frisky with the 3-point contest. We have Cam Johnson more than 22.5 score. Cam Johnson can light it up. He's got a really, really consistent form like his base. Jonathan Kuminga. Tyler Hero, less than 23. I think he's going to stink it up in the Bay Area. And then Damian Lillard, he loves this. He just loves this event. More than 25. You got to give me Dame. Take my picks, fade my picks. Just go make sure you do it at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use our promo code CLNS for $50 instantly when you place your first $5 entry. You don't even need to win to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. All that information will be clickable down in the comment section and description of today's video. Alrighty. The second dose of good news is that Golden State heads into the All-Star break with a win. They start the Jimmy Butler era with a 3-1 record, and no more injuries were suffered in this game. Gary Payton did miss, but Golden State was able to get a win, and they were able to get a very gritty win. A lot of bricks were being thrown up throughout this game, to be quite honest with you. And Golden State shooting less than 30% from three. I'm honestly shocked that they were able to pull this one out. They almost didn't. Steve Kerr, galaxy brain, put in this ridiculous lineup late in that third quarter that surrendered a 24-point lead down to 2. It was, I was in agony watching this game in the late third and early fourth quarter. But hey, Golden State tied up their boots, and they got down to business there late in the fourth and closed it out. And this guy necessarily didn't close it out, but I do want to say that he set the tone, and he kind of stabilized what Golden State has had going on over these last couple of games. And that's not something I've been able to say about Brandin Podziemski really ever, to be quite honest with you. I've been on record stating that I don't think Pods is an NBA player. He's proved me wrong over the last couple of days, man. This past couple of weeks or so, ever since he's really come back from the abdomen injury, he has been on fire. I'm not saying he's been uber efficient from the floor, but he's taking care of the basketball. He's making the right decisions. He is a little hesitant at times to be super aggressive to score, i.e. that Mavericks game and passing up the open layup, but he's just been a sound floor general over these last couple games, and he's also getting work on the defensive end as well, putting his body on the line, setting charges, going and grabbing rebounds aggressively. I love what I've seen from Pods and the young talent overall in Golden State during Kuminga's absence. And that's a good segue to move over to Moses Moody, who got another start. 7-0 Moses Moody as a starter. Let's go. Let's go. Shooting a very high percentage from the field as well. Maybe not so much last night, but what we saw the flash from Moody as far as in the Rockets game was the defensive end and how great of an effort that he put on the wings, the very talented wings that Houston has. Ime Udoka decided to not even play the starting lineup throughout that late third quarter and most of the fourth quarter. Like, Jalen Green sat the entire fourth quarter because Golden State had them locked down, and Moses Moody was a big part of that. Like, they had Jock Landale and Aaron Holiday and Jeff Green running the show late in that ball game, and Golden State was getting cooked by him. I'm not going to lie. So maybe good on the good coaching job from Ime Udoka there. But overall, Moses Moody has been very, very solid. Every time he gets an opportunity, you can see the confidence get more and more consistent and just show more on both the offensive and the defensive end of the floor. Also, though, Steph was Stephin last night. He was cooking. He was doing his thing. Again, another game in this back-to-back stretch, and I can't be too mad at Steph, who's a 35-year-old on a back-to-back right before the All-Star break for not playing his most efficient brand of basketball, right? 4 straight games of 30-plus, now 2 straight games under 30. But he still performed, and he still hit the big shots when they matter. He had the Rockets bench throwing up their hands in prayer last night when he missed a wide-open 3. It was crazy, but he hit the big shots when it mattered, and one turnover that kind of got me kind of riled up on stream. But overall, he's the top 10 player in the world. Like, let's temper our expectations and be happy that Steph is putting up the production levels that he's putting up right now, as well as Jimmy Butler, the new addition here in Golden State, who really hasn't had a bad game yet. I said during the live stream last night that Jimmy, this is his worst game yet as a Warrior. It ended up being a pretty solid outing, and he was playing great defense. He was a part of that lineup that was really, really bad for the Warriors, but my whole thing with that is I just don't think he's ready to necessarily lead and be the primary scorer in a lineup with a bunch of bench players just yet. Still has to get a little bit more acclimated to the offense. A lot of his looks have been easy and at the rim right now, and that's the type of player that he is. But I do need Jimmy Butler to be in a spot where he's looking to be more aggressive in the jump shooting department. And I'm not asking him to shoot 5 threes. He shot 4 last night, but get in the mid-range. Work at the elbow and the high post and make something happen in the jump shooting department. Doesn't have to all be layups and free throws, but I do like those as well. Draymond was awesome defensively. Like, he's Draymond Green. Like, I said this in yesterday's post game. Like, there's not much that deviates from Draymond on a game-to-game basis. He is awesome, and he continues to be awesome. And last night he was actually looking to be a scoring threat. Early on in this game, I think he had 3 drives to the basket there in that first quarter, and then he hit the dagger that put Golden State up 9 with under a minute left. Can't believe it. If you get Draymond daggered, I feel sorry for you. And then we've talked about the good. Now I got to get to the trash. He still sinks. He's still bad. I still want him sent back to the Bahamas. Stop playing Buddy Hield. I think he only got 14 minutes last night as in comparison to his 29 that he played against Dallas, but I don't even want to see him in the rotation anymore. Another guy who I don't want to see in the rotation anymore, Pat Spencer. Why is he playing in the first quarter? Why is he playing in the first half at all? Just play Pods and Moody more. Just play Pods and Moody more. That's all I want to see. And I also kind of want to see Guy Santos some more. He was kind of bad last night. A really bad turnover, overhead pass sent to the 7th row with the fans. But, I mean, he's a bigger wing on this roster, and Golden State needs more bigger wings to be playing ball for him. I like to see Guy get more of an opportunity. He can hit the outside shot. He gives it his all on defense. A total effort guy, and I like to see him grow his game just a little bit more. They did almost blow this game, though. Like I mentioned, up 24. Turned into 2. And it was to not superstar level players. It was to a 40-year-old Jeff Green. I don't know if he's actually 40, but he's been in the league for 20 years. And Jock Lawndale. Jock Lawndale, who is a DNP savant and just is a reserve player. You're getting cooked by the 11th, 12th, and 13th man on this Rockets bench. It was disgusting, to be quite honest with you. But they pulled it out, and they got the job done. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like Golden State should have walked through this game, but Houston was missing a bunch of guys. They were missing Fred VanVleet. They were missing Jabari Smith. They were missing Tari Eason, the Warriors hater. Glad they got the win. Glad they got out healthy. That is great news for Golden State, and they are the 10 seed heading into the All-Star break. I would like to be closer and closer to the 6 seed. The Clippers almost lost to the Jazz last night in overtime. Really wish the Jazz pulled that out, but obviously they're not in the business of winning games right now. So they are only 3 games back from the 6 seed at this current moment. 5.5 back from the 5th seed. Pipe dream, but I think it's possible with 27 games to go. 27 games to go. It's possible, and Steve Kerr is obviously setting that goal. He says the 6th seed is the goal, to avoid the play-in, to get matched up with a 3 seed who, we all know, 6-3. There's upsets that go on in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Those are definitely possible. So that's the goal. Got to stack up wins, and hopefully Golden State is in a spot where they have to avoid the play-in and don't get shot out of the gym like they did against the Sacramento Kings last year and get sent home very quickly in April. Where do you guys think Golden State will finish, though, in the West when it's all said and done? Shout out to Dickie V. When it's all said and done, where does Golden State finish? What's their record, and what seed do they finish with in the Western Conference? 28 and 27 before the All-Star break. Let me know how they finish the season. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. That'll do it for today's edition of Warriors Today. Heading into the All-Star break with good news, good health, and Jonathan Kuminga return, and potentially re-signing back on the horizon. So, if you love the Warriors, and you love free, informative, entertaining content every day, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're almost at our next milestone. We'll see you guys in the next one. Let's go Dubs.